Good afternoon, everyone. I'm calling the Committee of Health and Human Services of the Wayne County Commission to order here, please. Madam Clerk, can you do the roll call?
Each member is acknowledging that they are attending the meeting via Zoom and that they are located in Wayne County, Michigan, unless otherwise stated when I call your name. Commissioner Marecki.
Commissioner Marecki is excused.
Commissioner Dobb.
Present. I am located in Andover, Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Commissioner Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Baker McCormick.
Are here.
Here.
Chair Colleen.
Present.
You have a quorum present.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, please.
B, approval of the November 10th, 2020 meeting minutes.
Pleasure of the committee.
So moved.
Support.
Support.
It's been moved by Dobbs, supported by Anderson. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? All right. I believe we're on to old business, Madam Clerk.
Yes. C, old business, item 1, requesting commission approval of modification 1 to a 3-year subrecipient agreement with Arab Community Center for Economic and Social Services.
All righty. Thank you. Both of these old business items we had passed for the day for additional language to be added. I understand staff can show us that language that was added so that they could come back here for approval. So staff, what was the changes that were made?
This is Chris from the Policy Department, Policy Analyst for the Commission.
Welcome, Mr. Albrecht.
Thank you, Commissioner. As you'll see, for the paragraph numbered 1, the changes that were made is that the renewal options, or not, I'm sorry, let me back that up. Instead of adding and exercising renewal options, now the language reads that 2 one-year terms are being added. Previously, the department, along with the state of Michigan's written recommendation, was saying to reference the request for proposal that had led to the selection of these 2 contractors. The renewal options were included in their request for proposal. They were not included in the following contracts.
Right.
However, when these amendments came up, the department and the state were advising to exercise renewal options, and commission staff, as I understand it, we were advising and were able to work it out with the administration to have the language more correctly read now that these 2 one-year terms are being added instead of renewal options being exercised that did not previously exist.
Correct. There was some confusion there. So we have straightened out whether it was the renewal of a, or whether it was the addition of a couple of renewal years, or whether we were taking one now. So that's now clarified.
Yes, we're now just adding time on as opposed to exercising renewal options.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Albrecht. Commissioners, what's your pleasure?
I'll move both those items.
I believe they have to be, sorry to interject.
No, yeah, I'm on it, Mr. Albrecht. When we move these, and let's move them one at a time. Well, wait a minute, Mr. Albrecht, it was the same problem in both contracts?
Correct, and it was made, the correction was made in identical areas for both contracts.
Yeah. Okay, so Commissioner Anderson, the motion would be move as amended.
I'll move both or singularly. You want them done singularly?
We can do them both together because it was the same issue. Yeah.
Okay. I'll move both items as corrected.
Thank you.
I'll support.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Dobb. So we have old business items 1 and 2 that now have clarification on whether they're option years or whether we're taking the renewal now. We got that straightened around. Are there any questions from commissioners about the motion? Hearing none, we have a proper motion before us. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Are there any abstentions? All right, thank you very much. Madam Clerk, what's next?
D1, new business, item 1. Communication from Dr. Shanetta Coleman, Division Director, Department of Health, Human and Veteran Services, Juvenile and Youth Services Division, forwarding the report for the Youth Assistance Program's yearly outcome and program description for fiscal year 2019 through 2020.
Okay, this is a receive and file item. We get an annual report on the progress of our youth assistance programs. I will also interject a comment here. I've been in communication with the Chief Judge in Wayne County Juvenile Court to come join us to get the perspective of the court for these things like YAP and our CMO contracts, to get the perspective of the court in what they see with these programs. We will have to move, given his schedule and ours, he won't be able to join us until a meeting in January, but we will have the Chief Judge of Wayne County Circuit in January. Pleasure of the committee on item D1.
Move for approval.
Receive and file, right?
Receive and file, sorry.
Thank you.
Support.
Commissioner Dobb, thank you. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions? All righty, thank you. Madam Clerk, let's go on to item 2.
Item 2, requesting commission approval of a 5-year professional services contract with the Southeastern Michigan Health Association.
Thank you very much. Somebody from administration to walk us through this?
Hi, this is Carol Osterberry. I'm Health Officer, Health, Human and Veteran Services.
Welcome.
And yeah, we the SEMHA, this 5-year SEMHA contract has already been approved. This is just to some of the different business units just need to be they didn't correctly allocate all the funds in the different business units. And then at the end, you can see we've got some of the business units that we then added just for this COVID response. And these were, again, temporary funds that came to us basically from July 1 through December 30th. Those will all be done as of December 30th. But some of the staff got hired in through SEMHA. So that's why that got added to the SEMHA contract.
And would you say a couple of more words about it? What the county's relationship is with SEMHA? What do they do for us?
Right, sure. SEMHA is the Southeast Michigan Health Association, and the Southeast Michigan Health Association is comprised of the St. Clair, Livingston, Oakland, Macomb, Wayne County, City of Detroit, and Washtenaw County Health Departments. And Southeast Michigan Health Association, all of us as health officers actually are on the board for SEMHA. And we, as a united regional public health authority and entity, will make initiatives. A few years ago, we did an initiative for improving vaccination rates, immunizations of children and, school-age children, and initiatives on, like with the medical marijuana grants that have come out. We have worked collaboratively on this. And certainly, as COVID has been in all of our lives, we are working very collaboratively with, the messages going out from all of our health departments on mitigation, safety protocols, health standards, case investigation. All of those topics are always on our minds and have been for many months now. So that is really, Southeast Michigan provides then even a unified message, a unified communication source for how Southeast Michigan is handling emerging and current public health situations and issues.
Thank you very much. We'll get, I want to go around the committee to see for questions on this item. Commissioner Dobb, we'll start with you.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Anderson, do you have questions?
Nothing at this time, thanks.
Thank you. And Vice Chair Baker McCormick, do you have?
No question.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the committee then?
I'll move approval.
Commissioner Dobb moves.
Support Baker McCormick.
Thank you very much.
Actually, Mr. Chair, I've just noticed that it has to be the motion has to be to approve the revised resolution. Sorry about that.
That is correct. I'm sorry. I did miss that. So that's what all that bold typing is, the changes. Commissioner Dobb,
I will
Can you-
move to approve the revised resolution.
thank you. So you're still there,
Okay.
Commissioner Baker McCormick on seconding?
Support, yes.
All righty. So we have a proper motion before us. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, next on the agenda, Madam Clerk.
Item 3, requesting commission approval of a retroactive 1-year intergovernmental agreement with Michigan State University Extension.
Thank you very much. And who is presenting this to us?
I'm sorry, again, that's Carol Osterberry,
Yeah.
Health
Can you
Officer.
start, Ms. Osterberry, with
Yeah.
the retroactivity, please?
I know that this had been, there was just a lot of deliberations between Michigan State University and the county and regarding the funding allocation for this year.
It seems like everything just takes more time right now, especially in situations like this with two institutions trying to talk to each other and get their signals straight. So, okay. So
Move
go
to
ahead, Ms.
support.
Osterberry.
Oh,
Yes, this is a 1-year intergovernmental agreement between Wayne County and Michigan State University for the Michigan State University Extension Services programs. I will say that, Michigan State University is part of the, Public Health Division, and they provide just a wealth of programs and services to the community. This year, they have been, challenged with not being able to provide services in person, but they have been doing a lot of very, good creative virtual presentation of services. And certainly we're all hoping that come, the spring and summer, when one of their biggest programs being that 4-H program, that
Yep.
can get, really back up and rolling, in person for the kids for 4-H. But they have continued on with programs and services, just to be able to remain a good presence for families and, youth here in Wayne County.
Thank you. I was just checking the list. Is anybody from the co-op extension joining us today? Is there anybody from the extension? Okay. Questions on this? Commissioner Dobb, any questions on this contract?
Yes, just one question. Since this is a retroactive contract and it began on October 1st, 2020, have any services been provided since October 1st?
As I said, Michigan State has continued to provide, services to the community and to the residents. Certainly under, things are a little different with COVID, but, they have not stopped services, no.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's all I had.
Well, I thank you. But I think that raises a question for Commission Counsel. Commission Counsel, with regards to providing services without a contract in place, do you see an issue here?
Through the chair,
Please identify yourself. Yeah, there you are.
here
Who
I
are
am.
you?
Felicia Johnson, counselor to this honorable body.
Yep, welcome.
So with regards to services being provided prior to approval of the commission, our ordinance indicates that the entity, in this case, MSU Extension, does that at their own risk. Obviously, that's always a concern for this body because that means that a vendor is performing services without proper approval. That's why this contract would be considered retroactive. So that is always a concern. In this instance, based on the relationship with MSU, and in this body specifically in the county, I think that we'll probably be covered and wouldn't have any legal issues as a result of it. But the general concept is always a concern.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Anderson, do you have questions on this item?
No, I don't.
Thank you. Vice Chair Baker McCormick, questions?
No questions, just move to support.
Commissioner Baker McCormick moves the item. Is there support?
I'll support.
Thank you, Commissioner Dobb. All in proper motion before us, all in favor of that motion to approve the contract with Co-op Extension, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Are there any abstentions? All right, Madam Clerk, I'm going to jump to the addenda, please. Thank you. Madam Clerk, what's on the addenda?
Item 5, requesting commission approval of modification 31 to a contract with 3 one-year options to renew with Black Family Development.
Thank you. There are 5 items in the addenda. These are our care management organizations, AKA the CMOs. Quarterly, the committee receives these 5. This is to make adjustments to the CMO contracts based on their encounter data throughout the year. And so what this is to make the necessary additions or subtractions to these contracts based on the encounter data that they have had for the quarter. Somebody from administration need to say something more on that?
Hi, this is Cecily Hoagland, Administrator for Juvenile Youth Service Division, HHCS. So these are the fourth quarter adjustments for fiscal year 2020.
Okay, real good. The chair will consider a motion since they are basically all the same. The chair will entertain a motion that would include all 5 of these.
Move to support all 5 items.
And Commissioner Baker McCormick, did you want to have a comment on the Vista Maria contract?
I just wanted to be the maker of that motion, but overall, I move all items. So.
I got you, but yes. So to go back to an old biblical movie, you know, so it is written, so it is said. Commissioner Baker McCormick will move the Vista Maria item. So we have all 5 items moved before us. Is there support?
Support Anderson.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? Did I go around for questions on these? Commissioner Dobb, any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Anderson, any questions?
None. None.
Thank you. Commissioner Baker McCormick, same question.
No question.
All righty. We have a proper motion before us. All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Are there any abstentions? All righty. Motion passes. Madam Clerk, let's go back to item 4 on the agenda.
Item 4, we have a solid waste presentation by Patrick Cullen, Director of the County Solid Waste Technical Division.
Okay, thank you very much. Just a management comment that I'd like to make before we start here. We do have a PowerPoint that will be put up that Mr. Cullen will work from. What we are looking for is, what we are getting today is a report on all things waste in the county. You know, how many landfills we have, what goes into those landfills, what is Wayne County's role in managing trash. But I also want to say we have State Representative Joe Tate with us, and I see he's on the phone. So this is what I'm going to ask people in terms of management of this. I'm going to ask that Mr. Cullen go through his presentation. Mr. Tate is here because there's a package of 6 bills in Lansing right now. Mr. Tate is the Representative Tate is the sponsor, lead sponsor on one of those 6 bills that will make some amendments to the state solid waste ordinance. So I invited him in today to give us a bit of a sense on what those bills would do should they pass the legislature and be signed. What I will ask committee members is let's listen to both presentations. And I would ask that people keep little notes on the side. We'll go back to them. We'll hear from Mr. Cullen, and then we'll hear possible changes that these bills are called for. When we get both presentations done, the first thing I'll do is take questions for Representative Tate. And then we will finish up by going back to Mr. Cullen. I'm anticipating a lot more questions for Mr. Cullen than I am for Mr. Tate, and I don't want the representative here for longer than is necessary. So given that kind of framework, Mr. Cullen, are you with us, sir?
I'm here, Commissioner Clean.
Well, good to see you, sir. Pat Cullen, our solid, you're the division manager. What's the division? I call you the manager of trash, but.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I am the division director for environmental services for the
Yes.
Department of Public Services.
That's the technical. And I will also comment, Mr. Cullen, you've been doing this in the county, I believe, since the Roosevelt administration.
Pretty close.
And,
Mr.
well, I'm
Chair,
talking
pretty
about
close.
Teddy, actually. So I think I have you covered there. So if you'd like to introduce yourself, Mr. Cullen, and take us through what promises to be a very important and insightful presentation on solid waste in the county.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I assume someone else is controlling the slides?
Yes, would you like to do it yourself? I can allow you to share your screen if that works better for you.
Yeah, why don't we try that? And then
Okay.
that might work better. How's that? Can everybody see that?
Yep, it's there.
Okay. All right, there we go. All right. Again, thanks, Commissioner Clean, for inviting me today. I don't get a lot of opportunities to talk about the county solid waste management plan. You know, the way that we collect and dispose of trash is really critical infrastructure, much like our roads and bridges and drains are. In Wayne County, unlike our roads, bridges, and drains, for the most part, this system is privately owned and operated, with a couple of notable exceptions. The county does have an important oversight role in all of that. And what I wanted to walk through today, based on a series of questions that Commissioner Clean had posed to me a couple of months ago, is to give an overview of what the county solid waste management plan is. Why do we have one? What does it do? And really as an educational piece for the committee. I'm going to share the map that we have of the current licensed and operating solid waste facilities in the county to give you sort of a spatial look at where things are. I'm going to talk briefly about the programs that we run out of here at DPS that are related to implementing the county solid waste management plan, and obviously answer any questions that any of you have. I have a lot of information here, and I'm going to be very respectful to everyone's time. I suspect you're going to have a lot of questions even afterwards, and just know that I'm available to answer anything that you have even after the meeting today. And hopefully, you know, I know we're all going to be sleeping Thursday afternoon in our turkey coma. Hopefully, I don't start that early with my presentation today. Just a quick note. I was thinking it would be important to sort of get a quick overview of how we got to the system that we have today when it comes to the disposal of residential and commercial waste in the county. Pre-1940s, the Wayne County was essentially rural, outside of the city of Detroit and outside of a few other communities. And everybody was on their own when it came to trash disposal. A lot of folks would burn it in their backyards. There was a lot of open dumping that would take place. When the suburbs really started to grow between the 40s and 60s, we saw the development of what were known as town dumps. Every little town had a place where you could take your trash to. These would have been open fields. Oftentimes they were located near waterways. I have the photo on the lower left is probably the best known of the town dumps in Western Wayne County. That's Middle Belt Hill in Hines Park, which we all know as a valuable recreational resource. It is also on top of a garbage dump. There are several of these old town dumps that are spotted up and down the Middle Rouge, especially all the way from Dearborn up through Northville, and along the Lower Rouge and the upper branch of the Rouge, and in different drains. And really, prior to the 1960s, this all went unregulated. There wasn't a lot of regulation around these facilities, and we're living with the legacies of these sites today. Middle Belt Hill is a site that we have to monitor through an agreement with the state, along with Warrendale and another site in Westland at Holiday Park that Commissioner Anderson's probably familiar with. There have been a number of Superfund cleanups related to some of these dump sites and brownfield redevelopments. And so until today, we're really living with some of the ways that we used to dispose of trash in the past. Through the 60s and 80s, and these are real rough timelines, we saw the move towards incineration and more large-scale incinerators. There were a number of different authorities, such as the Central Wayne County Sanitation Authority, that operated incinerators for household trash disposal. The middle picture, of course, is the Greater Detroit Resource Recovery Authority incinerator in Detroit, which all are probably very familiar with. Very controversial site that was in operation just until very recently. Just within the last couple of years did they stop burning trash at the Detroit incinerator. As air quality regulations came into play, especially through the 1970s, you saw the closing a lot of those smaller regional incinerators, and then the movement towards what was referred to, and is still referred to in some ways, as sanitary landfills, which is really the primary method of disposal in the state and certainly in our region. And then just a real quick overview of what the state has done in terms of waste regulation. In 1965, the state passed the first statewide act called the Garbage and Refuse Disposal Act. And until today, you'll hear and see references to some of these old landfill sites that, oh, that was an old Act 87 landfill, or that was an old Act 641 landfill. Some of these sites are still managed today, and as these rules progressed, obviously the controls and the monitoring requirements became more and more detailed. So 78, we had Act 641, and it led us into the primary rules and that we're following today, which was Act 451 that was passed by the state in 1994. That was the Comprehensive Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act that addressed air quality, water quality, wetlands. It's incredible today to think of the divisive nature of our politics, that we actually had a state legislature that could pass such a comprehensive package of environmental legislation back then. Part 115 of Act 451 is the section that addresses solid waste management. And it's gone through a few minor revisions over the years, but it is still the primary regulatory structure that all of our solid waste facilities operates under. So we have a plan in Wayne County. Why do we have a plan? That's because Part 115 that I just mentioned requires every county in the state to develop a solid waste management plan. Our first one was adopted in 1983. Our current plan was developed in 2000, approved by the state in 2002. So yes, we are operating literally under a 20-year-old plan, and a lot has changed in 20 years. And there's reasons why we haven't updated the plan in that time, and I'll get to those. And primarily it's because of that third bullet. The state has not called on the counties to update their plans since that time. Developing these plans is extremely labor intensive and very expensive. The 2000 plan that we're operating under now took us more than 3 years to develop and countless staff hours. These are big projects, especially for Wayne County, because we have so many residents and businesses. We generate more solid waste than any county in the state. And the work that goes into developing these plans is significant. And our current plan works pretty well, frankly. What's the purpose of these plans? The big one in state law is that the counties are required to ensure adequate disposal capacity for the amount of waste that's generated within the county. And the timeline is 66 months. We have to keep a base capacity available for disposal of 66 months of duration. We have been well beyond that capacity number at least since the late 1980s. The plans establish goals for waste reduction and recycling. They also require us to keep a track of what facilities are operating in the county to meet the capacity goals. It also requires us, maybe most importantly in the current plan, it requires a siting mechanism for new facilities. So one of the reasons we haven't updated our plan is because we have a specific siting procedure for anyone who wants to open a new landfill, expand a current landfill, start a new transfer station or processing facility that doesn't require us to redo the entire plan. Some counties have to do the whole big process over just to include one new facility in their plan. But we have a siting mechanism in our plan that makes it a little bit easier, a little bit quicker without having to open up the whole plan to redo. Washtenaw County recently redid their plan to consider a request for expansion of Arbor Hills landfill in Salem Township, for example. And then to protect public health, and that's the enforcement end of our plan, and I'll get to that in a minute. Quick note on capacity crisis. The current way that the laws are written when it comes to county solid waste management planning was driven by this idea of capacity crisis that was taking place during the 1980s, late 1980s and early 2000s. We were running out of landfill space, and people were getting really, really concerned that, hey, we need to start identifying places to put this stuff. We really went overboard in Wayne County when we started citing capacity in the 1990s. We have more than enough capacity for the waste that's been generated here for many, many years. We probably overdid it. And I'll talk a little bit about a little more about that in a minute. Wayne County's current operating capacity is 12.2 years. And when I say operating capacity, that's all of the capacity that's currently licensed for disposal. So the landfills have received construction permits for a certain amount of waste. So what's out there now is 12.2 years. But what we actually have included in the plan and cited in the plan is well over 25 years of disposal. So there's a difference. If you're a landfill, you can get a construction permit to build a cell for a certain amount of waste. However, in a couple of our landfills, Carlton Farms being the big example, they have additional space on their property that's already been approved for disposal in our plan. County's current plan has 4 primary goals. Number 1 is to reduce the amount of solid waste that must be landfilled. Second is to optimize the use of existing solid waste disposal areas. Third one, to ensure local and public participation in the development and implementation of the plan. And the fourth is to sustain and enhance compliance and enforcement programs. Everything we do out of our office, out of the solid waste program, is related to one of these 4 goals in some way. A quick note on the committees that are part of our plan. There are two primary committees. There's the Overall Implementation Committee, or the SWIC. It's 14 members appointed by the CEO. It includes one county commissioner. The membership makeup of the SWIC is dictated by Part 115. They have very specific requirements about what types of community members belong to this committee. You have to have a certain number from the solid waste industry, you have a certain number from environmental groups. Our SWIC, our big committee, has not had a meeting in more than 10 years. The primary reason that group hasn't met in 10 years is because we've been thinking every other year for the last 10 years that the state was going to call for updates to our plan. And we've been waiting, and we knew when they called for an update to the plan, we would have to reappoint a new committee, and we'd really have to get people who were committed to doing the work of developing a new plan. And the other reason it hasn't met is because of the second committee that we have that is a little unique in county plans. We have what's known as the Siting Committee, or the Facility Inclusion Committee, which is purposed specifically for the consideration of newer expanded facilities who want to be included in our plan. That committee is a 9-member committee, does not include a county commissioner, although it theoretically could, but it is from organizations that are specifically identified in our plan. It's not dictated by Part 115, but the makeup of this committee was approved by the state when our plan was approved back in 2002. So there's 9 members, 2 that are appointees from the larger SWIC, 1 from the Conference of Western Wayne, 1 from the Central Wayne County Sanitation Authority, a representative from Downriver Community Conference, and a representative from the Greater Detroit Resource Recovery Authority. And then just a real quick bullet on the bottom, under the new proposed legislation that Representative Tate is going to address, the new big committee is going to be reduced from 14 members to 11 members.
And I'll just quickly add, Mr. Cullen, that's me that's on that SWIC committee.
Yes.
10 years ago, the commission did have an environmental committee that I chaired, and that was the designation that put me on that committee.
Yep. Some of the bigger issues that are current with solid waste management planning in the county, on the left side, the import of Canadian waste. More than 25% of the waste that's disposed of in Wayne County landfills comes from Canada. At our largest landfill, Carlton Farms in Sumter Township, which is also kind of trades back and forth with Arbor Hills and Salem Township as the largest in the state, more than half of the waste disposed at Carlton Farms comes from Canada. It's a problem that and I know everybody gets really, really upset when they think about this issue. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot that we can do about it, at least not right now. This has been litigated. Waste is considered an article of commerce protected by the Commerce Clause in NAFTA. Believe me, attempts have been made to try to stop the trash at the border. One of the reasons we are such an attractive location for it is because of our excess capacity in the county. And because we have so much excess capacity, it means it's really, really inexpensive gate fees for disposal. So the regs are a lot tighter in Ontario. It's much less expensive for a lot of the waste haulers in Southern Ontario to haul this across the bridge over to one of our landfills. This is something, when we think about working on a new plan, that we would want to consider in terms of how are we going to manage future capacity in the county. If you tighten down the amount of capacity that's available, does that become a discouragement to some of this Canadian waste that's coming over? That's a conversation for another time, but that's one of the big issues that's facing us. The other one that I put over on the right-hand side are nuisances associated with current landfill operations. 2 primarily that we deal with on a frequent basis. One is the Arbor Hills landfill, which is not under our jurisdiction. It is just over the Washtenaw County border in Salem Township. However, due to the prevailing winds, the residents primarily in Northville Township, but also in Plymouth Township, get a lot of nuisance issues associated with its operation. And then the second one would be Riverview Land Preserve downriver. Riverview is surrounded by 4 sides of pretty dense residential population. Riverview, Woodhaven, Brownstown, and Trenton. Noise, odor, dust, truck traffic, these are all common concerns even at the best operated landfills. These tend to be issues that get raised, and the closer you are to dense residential, the more often that our phone rings. And so the enforcement of our ordinance comes into play here, and that's something that we address through our inspection and enforcement program. Then the last bullet that I threw in here is related to commercial composting and MRF capacity. MRF stands for Material Recycling Facility Capacity. We have really one municipally owned large scale commercial or composting operation in the city of Taylor in Wayne County. Most of the commercial composters are located outside of our county. There are a lot of small, medium-sized facilities that are unregulated or are so small that they don't have to get registered or enforced by our ordinance. There's a gap there. And there's also a gap, I believe, for material recycling facilities in the county too. If we're going to up our recycling rate and divert more waste from the landfills, we need to really work on developing additional capacity in those areas. A quick note about the inventory. What do we have in the county? We have 4 type 2 landfills. Type 2 refers to municipal solid waste landfills. 3 type 3 landfills. Those are specific construction, demolition, or industrial, very targeted industrial waste facilities. If you're wondering what a type 1 landfill is, it generally refers to hazardous waste landfills. We do have one of those in Wayne County in Van Buren Township. We have no regulatory authority over hazardous waste in the county. That is entirely regulated by the state and the EPA. There are 4 solid waste processing facilities, 24 operating solid waste transfer stations, 2 compost facilities, and they put material recycling facilities in italics because in the new legislation that Representative Tate has co-sponsored, MRFs are going to be licensed. And so we're going to have a better idea and a better handle over what our inventory of material recycling facilities are in the county if and when new legislation gets passed. And I don't know, let me see if I can, okay, I'm going to try to bring up the map. Can everybody see the map?
The map is blank.
Oh, the map is blank. Oh, no.
Yeah, it's just black.
Okay, hang
background.
on. Let me try this again. Can we see that map?
Nope.
No go?
Anyone
Okay,
else?
hang on. I'm going to get it.
There we go.
Is that it? Yay. Sorry about that. I just want to give you a real quick look at the landscape of where these facilities are located. There are 4 red stars on the map that refer to the 4 type 2 landfills in Wayne County. This is Sauk Trail Hills in Canton Township, owned and operated by Republic Services. Woodland Meadows landfill in Van Buren Township, just on the other side of 275, located in Van Buren Township. Carlton Farms landfill on the Monroe County border down in Sumter Township, that's our largest. And the city of Riverview's landfill is right over here, sitting in the middle of that residential pocket right there. There are 3 type 3 landfills in the county, one owned and operated by the city of Livonia up here. Another one, the EC Levy landfill in Taylor, right off of I-75 and Pennsylvania Road. and the Sibley Quarry in Trenton over here, which is operated by DTE. They use that for combustion coal residuals deposition. The orange dots on the map represent type A transfer facilities. Those are the ones that will take garbage packer trucks. The green dots on the map are type B transfer stations. Those are generally operated by local municipalities and are hand unload only. And then we have 4 processing facilities in the county. One over here on the left in Van Buren Township, which is associated with US Ecology's hazardous waste facility. They also do Part 115 solid waste processing there. The EnviroSolids facility on Wyoming in Dearborn. They have a really cool green campus if you've never been there before. And then US Ecology runs 2 facilities in Detroit. US Ecology North up here, which also has a hazardous waste component that's been in the news quite a bit recently, and US Ecology South. That's a kind of a big picture of where all of these facilities are located. Just as a visual, way up here in the top left corner of the map, I kind of have my cursor running over it, but Arbor Hills Landfill, which is located right on the Washtenaw-Wayne County line in Salem Township, is up here. They have been in the news a lot as well. They are engaged in a lot of enforcement actions with the state. We have a lot of concerned residents in North Villain Township that have their eye on that issue as well. Okay.
Yeah, now that you got in there, good luck getting out.
I'm gonna get it. Okay. All right, back to the slideshow. Quick note about current landfill capacities. Carlton Farms in Sumter has about 20 years of existing and 30 plus years of sited capacity. These numbers are based on last year's figures, by the way, so you could probably subtract a year from each of these. Riverview Land Preserve last year reported 12 years of remaining capacity. We are expecting a request for expansion of that facility coming from them soon. They requested an expansion back in 2017 that was very controversial. The siting committee at that time sent them back to the drawing board. The city chose not to seek the expansion at that time. We're expecting to see a new expansion from them fairly soon, a new request for expansion fairly soon. Sauk Trail Hills Landfill in Canton is at less than 10 years of capacity. That facility is pretty well landlocked, and they have indicated that they're not expecting to seek an expansion of that facility anytime in the near future. Woodland Meadows in Van Buren Township on the other side of 275, they're getting down to their crunch time. They have less than 4 years of remaining capacity. However, back in 2018, the siting committee approved a new expansion to the south over their golf course area, south towards Ecorse Road. That's going to allow them what they estimate to be about 30 years of additional capacity at that facility. What does Wayne County do related to the solid waste plan? We have a number of different programs that we operate. We have a household hazardous waste program that I know many of you are familiar with. We generally run from 3 to 5 collection events every year. Unfortunately, that program was postponed by COVID this year. We are in the process, we are working on a new contract for our HHW program. You should be seeing that hopefully in early 21. The new HHW contract is going to have provisions of it in it for drop off by appointment, so that you're not just going to have to rely solely on one of our collection events, which were getting very, very crowded, and people were getting very frustrated because the lines were so long. We have the CLEAN program, which is our neighborhood illegal dumping program, where we work with community groups and block clubs to address illegal dumping, especially in residential neighborhoods. We have a medical sharps collection program that operates out of both of our Westland and Hamtramck clinics, where residents can take medical sharps for safe disposal. We have an app that's available on iTunes and the App Store called Wayne County Recycles. If you've not downloaded it on your phone, I encourage you to do so. It gives you can punch in any sort of item that you have laying on around your house, such as latex paint, and it will give you local options for safe recycling or disposal for those things. Our office coordinates the County Green School program. We also have an inspection and enforcement program and a separate solid waste ordinance in Wayne County. We're the only county in the state that is independently conducting enforcement and inspection of its solid waste facilities to the extent that we are. And a lot of that is because we have so many facilities to look after, and there is so much waste disposed of in Wayne County. That's a very active program. We inspect our type 2 landfills, just as an example, on a weekly basis. So we're very well tuned and plugged into what the operations are at the various facilities in the county and what's going on. How do we pay for all of this? The county receives tipping fees from its 4 type 2 landfills. That is in the county's fee ordinance. We receive 16 cents per cubic yard of waste that's disposed, or 48 cents per ton, depending on how it's tallied at the gate. That funding source has been more than sufficient to support the programs that we operate. There is no general fund money that goes into the operation of these programs. Just some of the things that we've done over the years. Our HHW program has collected more than 10 million pounds of household hazardous waste in its 15 years of operation. We've recycled more than 65,000 scrap tires through our clean program. And we've removed more than 20,000 cubic yards of illegally dumped waste from neighborhoods, working with local community groups and block clubs. What's ahead? This is what Representative Tate's going to address, pending House Bills 5812 to 17, the first major rewrite of Part 115 in more than 25 years. It's going to have a big impact on county solid waste management planning. Number one, we're going to have to do a new plan. Number two, it's going to end up with new committee appointments. Number three, we're going to have to redo our ordinance. And the big overall theme of all of this is really a movement from calling this waste management into materials management. A recognition that the things that we discard aren't necessarily trash or waste. They have an inherent, many of the items that we discard now have an inherent value in them. And there is a move statewide to try to maximize the value of materials that can and should be recycled that are currently going into our landfills. And that's a big thrust of why this series of state bills are pending at the House. We've been working on this set of legislation for a long time, and we're really hopeful that we see some movement soon. They're going to establish I don't want to steal Representative Tate's thunder here, but they're going to establish benchmark recycling standards and specific material utilization goals that we as a county are going to have to meet. So they're going to be measurable, and we're going to have to come up with a plan to figure out how we're going to get from point A to point B and be held accountable for it. Related to that, just some quick facts. In 2016, DEQ said that we are throwing away more than $400 million worth of recoverable materials in our waste stream. The cost to collect and dispose of residential waste in Michigan is $1 billion. So there's a big gap right there. Our statewide recycling rate right now is right around 18%. The national rate is 32%. So Michiganians love to think of themselves as great recyclers, but we're well below the national average when it comes to how we're diverting waste from our disposal facilities. Wayne County's current recycling rate is roughly 25%, so we're doing better than the state average, but there's a lot of room for improvement. And the statewide goals, the newly stated statewide goals, is a statewide average of 45%. And we expect in the new legislation that they're going to be holding the counties, they're going to be looking for progress at the county level to get up to that 45% recycling rate. that is the end of my presentation. Thank you all for all of your patience. I can turn it back over to you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Cullen. That was just excellent. Appreciate the work you've been doing. Let me see if Representative Tate is ready to join us here. And as committee members can see, Mr. Cullen's been involved in these bills greatly. It'll be good to get a little bit of an overview from the representative. But as if these things move in the legislature, Mr. Cullen will probably be asking you back to get into some more of the details. Or I guess it's actually Public Service Committee is actually where that discussion will probably take place. Representative Tate, are you, how do we bring Representative Tate?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. I'm here. If you can hear me.
This is Representative Joe Tate from the 2nd District on Detroit's east side. There is a package of 6 bills. Representative Tate is the lead sponsor for one of those bills. So we asked him to join us today, even though Mr. Cullen has already stolen all of his thunder. But Mr. Tate, if you would please give us a little bit of an overview about what this package of 6 bills can accomplish. And when you do that, can you also make some comment as to where this is in the committee system? Are there hearings set up? What are the future of these bills? So thank you very much, Mr. Tate, for joining us today. Hopefully you can hang out a little bit for the conversation afterwards, because I think some of the questions to you and to Mr. Cullen will overlap. So hopefully you can hang with us a little bit. But for right now, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, members of the committee, for having me today. And also thank you to Mr. Cullen. I think he's the subject matter expert at this, to be frank, and it was a great overview of just what the bills and the idea and the intent of the legislation does. So I think his presentation shed a lot of light on what we're trying to do with refining the Part 115 statute in the state. So as Mr. Cullen mentioned, the idea and intent out of this is increasing the recycle rate in the state of Michigan, and having a greater focus on the life cycle of waste and how we can leverage that with rewriting the Part 115 legislation, or the statutes. And most notably, I think this was highlighted in 2014, and during the Snyder administration, there were a couple of reports that came out well before my time. The Governor's Recycling Council report and the Solid Waste and Sustainability Advisory Panel came out in 2014 and identified several recommendations for legislation. So it goes back further than that, but in terms of kind of where I've been seeing it move, the genesis was kind of right around 2014, and working with numerous stakeholders in business and local government and other experts in this field, we're at this point to where we're at right now. So I'll do a very brief overview of just the 6 package bill that looks at rewriting it, and it's House Bills 5812 through 5817. So 5812 essentially looks at redefining the goals and definitions of Part 115. So, moving away, as Mr. Cullen mentioned, from solid waste to materials management, essentially reframing what we're looking at for waste management. 5813 looks at landfill operations. 5814 is around financial assurance, so bonding. 5815 is a mishmash of different subparts that are in the bill that cover a number of things, number of items. 5816 is materials utilization. The facilities, Mr. Cullen mentioned that, some greater oversight over materials management facilities. So adding some additional oversight to that. And my bill is 5817, which really outlines the materials management plan. And that seeks to, the idea and intent is to, come up as we're moving forward with what kind of opportunities do we have to increase our recycle rate, developing material management plans for counties, and also looking at not only within one county, but looking at more than one county, see if there's opportunities to develop plans together. Also looking at looping in and finding opportunities to loop in local governments with the materials management plan as well, which is outlined there. I said, Mr. Chair, I know you have just a snapshot, a legislative analysis of the package of the bills that kind of outline at a very high level what they do. And I also have information on the actual bills too, but I don't know if you want to go through 200 pages of those bills. But
well, no, you could send that to me, Rep.
Okay.
I would like to get a little deeper dive around because, as Mr. Cullen's suggesting, there's going to be a bit, if these bills get passed, there's going to be a big lift here in Wayne County, and the legislative branch certainly needs to be apprised and have some in-depth knowledge of what this is, because, trash is a very sensitive issue. And so if you could send it to me, I'll get it around. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'll have that to you by the end of the day. And then also for 5817 is looking at grant programs coming from the state to support counties in developing these material management plans. As Mr. Cullen said, it is time and treasure intensive to develop these plans. So there's a grant funding for the counties to develop these plans. Where we're at right now in terms of the legislature, these bills were introduced in May in the House. And they went through our House Natural Resources Committee. And in the House, so we kind of have a two-layered approach with some of our committees. So these bills were moved out of Natural Resources, and now they're sitting in our Ways and Means Committee currently. If they move out of Ways and Means, they move to the floor and then over to the Senate. I can try and keep the committee abreast on where we're at. Obviously, we're towards the end of the legislative session. On our calendar, we have 9 session days left, all in December. So I don't know what will be the decisions made, more so on the Senate side, to see if there's any opportunities for movement on that side. But I will say, as Mr. Cullen mentioned, and as I spoke about, this is an issue that's been discussed and talked about for a number of years. So it's not a new issue at this point. So we'll have to see what movement there will be during our lame duck session. So it's TBD right now, and as soon as I have greater insight on it, I'm happy to update you, Mr. Chair, on the movement.
Yeah, please keep us informed. Will the bills have to be reintroduced with the new session in January?
Yes, if they don't get
okay.
If they don't get to the governor's desk, yes.
Yeah. thank you very much for that. You know, this discussion from both you, Rep, and Mr. Cullen reminds me, we have a thing in this state called the drain code. Printed out, it's about 6 inches thick. About every 15 years, the legislature gets it in their mind to, I think it's a 1949 bill or something, you know, managing draining of our wetlands for farms and all that kind of stuff. About every 15 years, the legislature gets it in their mind that they're going to update that. They go after it for about 3 years and then give up because of the complexities. So it sounds like, and then 10 years later, they try again. So it sounds like a little bit of that here with the solid waste. Very much appreciate you joining us here. Let me go around the committee here. And are you able to stay with us for a minute, Representative Tate?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So commissioners, questions you have for either the representative or for Mr. Cullen at this point? Commissioner Dobb, let's have you lead this off, please, if you would.
Sure. Thank you both for a very informative presentation. A lot of my questions were actually answered, you know, during your presentations. The only thing that I'm wondering is, so I think for Patrick, you stated that most of the landfills in Wayne County are privately owned and operated. Is that true for all of the counties in Michigan? And also, what about other states in the country? Are landfills typically privately owned and operated?
Yeah, so that's a really, that's a good question. For most, in Michigan, certainly the majority are privately owned and operated. There are some municipally owned, operated, and county-owned operated facilities such as Riverview Landfill in Wayne County. Kent County is a county that has something called flow control, where all of the waste generated has to go to their facility that they operate. They operate a waste to energy incinerator and a landfill. Nationwide, I don't have figures on that, but I would suspect it's pretty similar to what's going on in Michigan. There are 3 or 4 pretty major players in the waste industry. 2 of the biggest are here in Wayne County: Waste Management and Republic Services, that generally own and operate most of the operating facilities today.
Okay, and then one follow-up question to that is, do they pay any fees to the county or the state?
So yes, in the state of Michigan has a tip fee that's assessed through Part 115. And so the state does get funding to operate their own waste management program. And in the county, we have our own tipping fee too at the Type 2 landfills. Okay,
and I think you did cover that during the presentation. Can you just answer if, I'm sorry if you already did say this, when was the last time those fees were updated?
I think it was 2006 was the last update of the tip fee.
Okay, are they updated pretty regularly?
We have not touched it. We have not brought it to the commission's attention recently. They have not been updated in some time.
Okay.
I mean, part of that is they are generating sufficient revenue to cover operating expenses. And so I think if we saw a real drop in a gap there, then we'd come to you and say, hey, we think we need to address this again. But it's not something that we have on the table right now.
Okay. All right. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Commissioner Anderson, you're next in the queue for questions and comments, please.
Thank you. I believe most of my questions are for Patrick, but I think Representative Tate, I was there in the legislature when we were trying to regulate this dumping and the Canadian trash being brought in, and stiff resistance at that time, as I'm sure you probably have seen already. The question I have to Patrick, is the issue. Well, I have several. Since it was most recently mentioned about the tipping fees, why would we not have the ability to increase that beyond just what covers the cost of the monitoring, Patrick?
Well, it's just not anything, Commissioner Anderson, that's really been, I think, raised to the administration's attention. The possibility is certainly there. I will say that the current, the way that the tip fee is written into our current ordinance states that it has to be spent on solid waste programs, I believe is the language that's in the current fee ordinance regarding to these gate tip fees. I think you would certainly get resistance from our landfill operators regarding any sort of move towards bumping that number up. But that would be really that's up to the commission if they want to talk to the administration perhaps about looking at that in the future. It's not something that we've raised from our from our end recently.
Right. Yeah. And I understand that there's not as far as the larger scheme of things, legislative body or the administration should be the ones initiating that. But I think it's something that maybe the chair and I can have some additional conversation about, because is there anything that prohibits us from having that as an offset to control the flow of trash into our landfills?
Yeah, that's probably a better question for the attorneys, who have, had to deal with this issue in the past.
Right.
Something that did strike me though, that I wanted to mention related to your question. One of the things that we have been advocating, myself and the county, in some of the work that's been done on these House bills, is there is a provision for what's known as an impact fee in Part 115. But the impact fee can only be imposed by municipalities on facilities located within their jurisdiction. One of the things that we've advocated, and the nice thing about the impact, well, I should say, the interesting thing about the impact fee is that you can use the impact fee for anything that you want to use it for. It goes into your general fund. However, the county is not considered a municipality via the definition in Part 115. So one of the things we've been advocating for in the new bill is to include counties in the definition of the imposition of a potential impact fee, which would generate additional revenue that could be used for other purposes.
Yeah, I think that might be the route to go. I don't think I'm certainly not wed to the tipping fee, but I know that was the reason that we were cited as being the attractive dumping site for Canada and the rest of the state and Ohio and other places. Are we still bringing in is there a lot of garbage still coming in from Ohio?
Not really. The volumes from Ohio and Indiana are pretty minor. By far, we do get a lot of waste from neighboring counties, from Monroe County. Actually, all of our bordering counties send some amount of waste to our facilities, but Canada is the big out-of-town impact user on our landfills.
It just seems it seems like there's a great failure in being able to regulate that to a greater degree to stop being the trash can for the rest of the country and Canada in particular, because they have come to the realization in their policies that they don't want to import trash, and they've made it very stringent what can be deposited in the environment in Canada, but it's okay to send it to Michigan, and it's all economics. I realize that, but I think we need to get smart and try to figure out some way to do it. I appreciate what Representative Tate is trying to do. It was as I said, we were very, very limited success back in the 2000s, early 2000s. It was just there's quite a lobbying effort on behalf of the landfill people, the operators, and even some of the locals, because there's some local dollars generated. But I think we have to look at a greater picture and what it's doing to our state. And I know there's a lot of folks that are trying to do that. But Patrick, I think there was something that that I wanted to bring up, that we did send you an email on, about the disposal of the hazardous waste. That, is it a possibility that we, during the pandemic, when we no longer have the semi-yearly, was it, I'm trying to remember how we did it on, it was 3 or 4 month basis, where we had those drop-off points to get a centralized location, whether it's or maybe 2, that people can bring it to those locations and still not have a fee, because every time you have a fee to the homeowner that are already paying, of course, taxes in Wayne County, I'm sure the participation drops, and then we see more in the waste stream, as I believe it was in Troy. I may be wrong, but it was over on the east side, and I believe in Macomb County, where there was an explosion in the garbage truck because things were thrown into the back end of the garbage, or in the garbage, that the garbage operators weren't aware that what's in there, and caused an explosion, 2 firefighters injured. Before we start seeing more of those occurrences, I think we need to find some way, even during the pandemic, to give people an option that doesn't cost them.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Commissioner Anderson. And prior to the pandemic, we were moving towards, and we are still moving towards, the establishment of at least one permanent HHW drop-off location. We are also working with our contractor ERG in Livonia to establish a drop-off by voucher system, and that you'll see language like that in the new contract that's coming, that should be coming to you hopefully early next year. We've been trying to respond to as many calls as we can from residents asking us what they can do with this stuff. And ERG, for example, will accept a drop-off by appointment, but they do charge a fee for it. And I agree with you. As soon as you tack a fee on it, all of a sudden people aren't so interested in doing the right thing with their discards. So we have been, depending on the type of material that folks have, like if they have paint or fuel or motor oil, we have really good local resources that people can take to those for little to no expense. But it's still not the same and as convenience as when you're doing your spring cleanup and you can load your car up and you can take everything that you have to one place. People are used to that. People like doing that. It's convenient. And we want to make that option available for them. And we want to expand the ability for them to do that. And that is definitely our plan moving into 21.
Right. Hopefully earlier rather than later, because I'm getting calls on that now.
I'm worried about all the stuff people have stacked up in their garage and what these first events are going to look like. It's going to be ugly.
Maybe if we're able to increase the whether you want to call it the tipping fee or the impact fees, if the state would allow us to do that at the county level as well as at the local level, we might be able to fund this program and helping set up those sites. A couple of centrally located sites within Wayne County for people to drop off that hazardous waste. But I think we need to look at that as soon as possible. I think you touched on how many, the capacity, and so that question I had has been answered as far as how many are slated for expansions. But are there any expansions on any of the waste locations that are planned in the next year or two? I know the capacity is there and they have the ability to, but are there any that are planned?
Yeah, and I think I briefly touched on it in the presentation, but we do expect a request for expansion from the city of Riverview for the Riverview Land Preserve. And I expect it to be as controversial this go round as it was in 2017, the last time that they tried. It is it's a major source of revenue for the city of Riverview. That's why they're so interested in pursuing the expansion of their current facility. But the challenge has been where they're located and the amount of dense residential population around them. And it was not popular amongst their neighbors the last time they tried, and we'll see what happens the next go round.
Right. You expect that to happen next year?
I do. Yes, I do.
Okay. And do we have any way to regulate what goes into what trash or type of trash goes into the landfills in Wayne County?
That is all outlined in the Part 115 regulations. So, and our ordinance adopts all of the administrative rules of Part 115.
Okay. And certainly the transporting of any hazardous waste across the Van Baster Bridge is something that, is that regulated by the state?
It is, and the state and the EPA, and I believe either the Army Corps or the Coast Guard has some play in that as well, especially as it relates to transport across the bridge. And
Representative Tate, do you know if there's been any movement on that legislation? I think there was legislation proposed, or they're asking, the Ambassador Bridge owner is asking to transport hazardous waste across the Ambassador Bridge. And I know it's been refused or denied for all these years, but I just wondered if you heard any updates on how that's, is that going to move, or it probably sounds like a lame duck piece of legislation that the proponents might push it lame duck.
I haven't heard anything in terms of legislation that's being proposed in regards
I think it's
to that.
just
I know
permit. I'm sorry.
Yes. Oh, no. Yes, sir. I think it's just through MDOT is the decision maker around that. So I know that there are conversations being had, but I don't know any of the specifics. But in terms of legislation, I haven't heard of anything.
Okay. I think it's probably a permit. But Patrick, do you know anything about it? Have you heard anything that you could update us with?
No, I do know either earlier this year or last year, there was some conversation, and I'd have to go back and look at my emails about there being some change of legislation about how and where hazardous waste could get transported. I can look into that for you, Commissioner. I do recall something earlier this year, something coming up about that earlier this year. And I'd be happy to look into that for you and get that info.
I appreciate it. I know the commission passed a resolution in opposition to that, and I believe some other officials in the county upstairs were in support of it. So we're not on the same not on the same playing card, I guess, or same wavelength on that issue. I wondered too, do we have any information that we can get our hands on as to the tipping fees for other states around around the Midwest, what they're charging for tipping fees, what tipping fees are in Canada, and to I'm guessing that Representative Tate has probably already done some of this homework, but there's probably there's got to be a drastic difference in what Michigan, how low the charges are in Michigan as compared to the other surrounding states, and maybe in particular in Canada. Because I think we're getting garbage from Toronto, as far as Toronto and maybe even further. But
yeah, there was a time, Commissioner, that City of Toronto trash was coming to Wayne County. There was a landfill that was opened outside of London, Ontario, that I believe is now taking the primary bulk of waste from the City of Toronto. But even without City of Toronto trash, there's still enough waste in other areas of Ontario, you know, that are finding their way across the bridge. And I think, you know, I can certainly look into tipping fees in other states, but I think equally important, and what I addressed in the presentation, is the abundance of capacity. In other words, we have so much available space, and we have 4 different type 2 landfills in the county. They're all competing with each other for the volume of waste. And so there's a price point for what they're going to charge at the gate for how much waste comes in. And as long as that space is available and that competition is there, just basic economics is going to push that price down. That's why, I had mentioned it's something that, we really need to have a serious conversation about at the larger planning level when we develop a new plan about where should that capacity number be for the county.
Right. I would think it'd be sensible and logical, certainly, to try to set a base level that to try to manage those price levels, to not put the environment in Michigan in a bad position by having them get into this bidding war on what their tipping fees are into that facility. And because that, our people are the ones that, when the owners of that landfill maximize the amount of garbage that can be placed there and they move on, it's the people that live here in Michigan that will have to continue dealing with that issue.
Yeah, I also, just to add to that real quickly, and I know I have some of my landfill friends that are in the meeting today. I don't want to make it look like the landfills are completely the bad guy in all of this either.
Mm-hmm.
There is an economic element to this as well. They do provide a lot of local revenue. They do provide a lot of jobs locally and regionally. And so there is a balance in this overall question that we have to consider.
And I truly believe, that we as consumers have to have some responsibility in this as to how much we recycle and how much we reuse what we're now throwing in the garbage. But I really have an issue when it comes from other states and other countries. So anyway, thank you both for the presentation. That was very good.
Thank you. And just a quick add, the City of Westland, Commissioner Anderson, as you know, has always been one of our longest and best recycling communities in the county.
Yeah, thanks. I know it stopped for a while and we're trying to get it back to the level that it was, and with tighter regulations on what can be recycled and the greater amount of effort on the part of the consumer, I think we've got some ground to make up, I think, but it is doing a lot better. Thank you both. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Anderson. Vice Chair of the committee, Commissioner Baker McCormick, it's your turn. Unless we have the connectivity problem that we had earlier for her. Do we know if Commissioner Baker McCormick is still with us? She was calling in on the phone, so I don't recognize the phone number.
I don't think I see the number on here anymore.
Okay, thank you. I also echo these were great presentations. And I have a few questions for our guests here. You've already referred to the revenue, not only for municipalities and for townships that trash generates because they have their own local fees that they put on. So that's there's a lot of players here when it comes to trash. And certainly the townships are very concerned about things like tipping fees and how that might affect in local municipalities. But as far as the tipping fees in the county solid waste ordinance, we are in control of those fees, correct?
We are, yes.
Yeah. And I would also encourage looking at raising the fees too, because Commissioner Anderson already referred to hazardous waste drop-offs. I think that would be an allowable use of any fees that we generate out of our ordinance, I believe. But I think we should also be more forward-looking as a county and to look at things going into the future that we could fund for a cleaner and more recycling county than we currently are. So I think the idea that we should look at that tipping fee, not just as a status quo because it's covering our costs for right now and maybe putting a few more nickels into our budget, but also what is the true need here and what kinds of, you know, innovative things can we do so there's less going into the ground and more stuff being recycled and using that fee. It's been alluded to that, you know, up in Lansing, you know, a lot of this solid waste stuff, can be an eye-rolling discussion for a lot of people and out in the public until it affects them directly. And then it's like a life or death issue. But certainly the companies doing our landfills do swing a big stick up in Lansing, and perhaps greater than the voice that the citizens have when these things come to committee. And you're exactly correct, Mr. Cullen, that not necessarily, we're not looking at enemies here by any means. But I think just like everything else that we do in this country, the appropriate regulation and the appropriate fee structure there. So if it costs them a couple of more dollars, I'm not too worried about that. But since we do have all this extra capacity, Mr. Cullen, why are we expanding a current facility when we have all this extra capacity laying around?
Well, you're probably referring to the approved expansion in 2018 of Woodland Meadows.
Yes, I'm very anxious to talk about how many mills in landfill liners. Once again, I want to tell you that was very enlightening to me.
Yeah.
I did get a message from Representative Tate. He does have to step away, and we really want to thank him for his participation today. And Representative Tate will probably be calling on you again in the new legislative year. But yeah, that's part of the reference. But I just mean overall, why are we expanding something when we have all this extra capacity?
Well, I would just say, Commissioner Killeen, that you would have to take that up with the siting committee, that, you know, they are the body that makes those decisions. In our recommendation to the committee, we had an identical committee recommendation to the committee, both for Riverview's expansion request and for Woodland Meadows expansion request regarding the capacity issue. In other words, we have sufficient capacity for the waste that we're generating right now in Wayne County. And there isn't any administrative or program reason from the solid waste management plan aspect to authorize additional expansions. However, going back to something that you opened with, I think what you see is if you talk to Canton Township, or if you talk to Van Buren Township, or if you talk to Sumter Township, or if you talk to the officials in the city of Riverview, you'll learn that these facilities are a significant source of revenue for their respective budgets.
I believe 30 to 40%, and maybe higher.
In some cases, that would be accurate.
Yeah.
And so each facility, part of our inclusion process requires each facility to develop what's known as a host community agreement. And so basically what it says is if somebody wants a new facility or an expansion, you have to negotiate that with whatever community you're located in. That's really probably the biggest factor that the siting committee looks at. If you've got a good, clean host community agreement with who you are, they generally are going to authorize the expansion. That's been the way that they've done things in the past. But I agree that this issue of excess capacity does, play a role, and an important role. I think the other end of this too, and probably the difference between the Riverview and the Woodland request. In Riverview, we had 500 people at a public meeting. The county commissioners, the state reps, all of the neighboring mayors show up in opposition to the expansion request. For the Woodland expansion, we did not have that. We had a few people in the room at the public meeting with little to no registered opposition from the public or the neighboring communities towards the expansion. So I think the committee looks at that and they hear from Van Buren Township saying, we want this facility in our community, and they authorized it based on that and looked at the economics of it rather than the capacity issue end of it.
Gotcha. I wrote down several questions as we were talking, then I made a note to myself that the last one I'd want to ask you about is the citing mechanism and the citing committee, because I know that will get into that can be a very deep conversation about what's happened there. So I don't want to get into that today, but I do want to follow up with you on that citing committee and get more information out to commissioners as well as the public about how these decisions are being made. Because everybody in Wayne County has an interest in this. And sometimes with these kind of decisions, it's very localized and the rest of the county doesn't even know necessarily that they're going on. And you referred to local and public participation in a plan. We may have to be redoing ours. You know, our ordinance, as you say, has been around for quite some time. Would administration have any objection just to having some sort of a public forum just to bring people up to date on what it currently is and making that available, discussion like that available to the citizens of Wayne County? And especially if we're going to see some changes in legislation coming down the pike, to have more of a public forum for just what's in that ordinance and what do we do in the county to spread more of the information on how we manage this in the county. So I guess the question is, does administration have any particular feelings about doing something like we're doing today, but specifically on that ordinance and what it says and what it does and what it does not do as we look to the future of materials management?
Very good. You got the terminology correct.
Yeah,
Material
well,
management planning. That's right.
Yeah, well, going up back to my days as Sierra Club political chair, this has been even before I was on the commission. These discussions up in Lansing were definitely on our radar about that. And yes, to make the switch to materials management is a good thing. But comments on having some sort of public forum on what the current the current Wayne County ordinance is. Would be very educational, I think, to commissioners as well as the general public.
I see Andy on. Andy, you want me to answer this? Okay. I'm certainly not against any public forum that talks about what we do and what our programs are. I'm certainly supportive of it. You know, I'm certainly open to that, Commissioner. Going back to, I did want to mention briefly when it comes to the citing committee decisions, the process in our plan does require us to notify every business, resident, and municipality within a half mile of the proposed facility. So there is a public participation aspect to our current citing process, but it tends to be very localized, like you mentioned.
Well, that was the point I was going to make, right? It's just, you know, it's like how many liquor stores do you want in Detroit? And if you only contact the people that live within 100 feet of the proposed location, you're really not taking the temperature of the public.
Yeah, I think probably the time and place is if we do get this new legislation passed and we're faced with the reality of having to develop a new plan, because I think that's really when we're going to want to engage the broader public over, you know, where we're at now, what we want to do moving forward, that kind of thing. But I'm certainly not against, you know, doing a status update to where we're at today with a larger public audience. I don't know if it could just be me and you that show up though, Commissioner.
Mr. Cullen, I definitely over the years here have come to very much appreciate your work in this area and your expertise in this area. For my feeling is we wade into the water slowly. We do a little update and give people a little more of a handle, commissioners as well and commission staff, about where we're at with the current law, so that anticipating next year, a couple of years from now, if the state does make some big changes, then we're already walking into the water a little bit, and we don't have to start from scratch and understanding what those things are. Has Wayne County taken a... No, Mr. Candravis.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hit you mid-sentence. It's tough anticipating it with the lag. I just wanted to say two things.
Identify
after hearing
yourself, please.
Sure.
Sir, and your
Andrew Candravis on behalf of Wayne County Executive Warren Evans. Two things
sir.
The first item, I just wanted to make you aware that the Deputy CEO, Judge Richard Kaufman, had put together a bit of a working group to understand some of the tipping fees and some of these issues. And obviously pre-pandemic, it was meeting a little bit more regularly than post-pandemic, since we're all out of the building.
It's not post-pandemic yet, sir.
Well, it's definitely, living with the pandemic and not being in the same building. So the work groups, you really got to focus on scheduling them a little bit more. No, sir,
I'm sorry, Mr. Candravis. I'm just pushing back. There has been nationally some talk like, oh yeah, well, we're done with COVID. It's post-COVID. It's no longer happening. So when I hear that phrase post-pandemic, I'm like, no. But I understand what you mean.
Right.
Since it's hit, it's kind of quiet around the
post March 13th, 2020, I guess. Yes. But anyways, I will make the I'll talk to the CEO and deputy CEO as well and tell them the interest at this committee hearing. I think Patrick's done a great job, and definitely there's nobody else that can explain this better than him. Second thing, I just want to offer my own personal opinion. I appreciate the chair saying that let's just, or Patrick said it, but I think that the chair, you echoed it. Let's see what lame duck kind of brings. I'll tell you, I entered the legislature as former Senator Glenn Anderson references. If you've been up in Lansing, you've always been hearing about Part 115 and amendments that have to be made, that want to be made, especially from the local level. I started in 2009, and I'm sure that was a subject of caucus meetings back then. We still have yet to see any changes. That doesn't mean I'm not optimistic, but I think let's look at January and see that if anything happened in lame duck. If it didn't, then we start really getting a better understanding and maybe taking this a little bit more public, as you said, Mr. Kleen.
Yeah, correct, Mr. Candravis, and you did mention it, but you are a former member of the Michigan House, so you've also been involved in all of these discussions. Has Wayne County, Mr. Candravis, I was going to ask Mr. Cullen, but I think you're the better person to ask. Has the administration taken a position in Lansing on these package of 6 bills? Are we actively lobbying for them?
I'm going to be honest. I think actually Patrick has had a hand through himself personally and then through his association in crafting them. So he can give you a bit of a better breakdown as to what level activity we've had and he's had on that.
Well, I am asking sort of about that, but what I'm really asking is, has the administration, has Executive Evans, through whatever mechanisms, said to the legislature that Wayne County endorses this package?
Yeah, and off the top of my head, I can't tell you that. I don't know if Patrick, because these were probably introduced the beginning of last year, as they're done every 2 years. I'm not sure specifically what we have endorsed, what HB number, hospital number.
I got you.
Or not. That's and Mo Hood previously handled this, and he's no longer with us. So off the top of my head, I can't tell you.
Former Senator Hood, yes. Yes, there's a lot of churning that goes on after lame duck and going into the new session for bills that have to be that were not acted on, that have to be reintroduced. Okay. Well, thank you for that, Mr. Candravis, for coming in on that. The last thing that I have for right now is for Mr. Cullen. You mentioned the Wayne County Recycle app. Can I find that under your department? Where to go look for it? I think this is something that we should be using social media, our newsletters, to get out there. I think I do, and I think everybody else does. I mean, other commissioners here all the time in their offices. You get this as well in your office. Where do I take stuff? How do I handle this? And so if we have an app, and I just saw something the other day about, somebody sending me that they got like 10 old paint cans in their basement. What do I do with them? If we do have a Wayne County app that can direct them to the right place, You mentioned the App Store or whatever, because I don't download apps, but I'm like this one. Where do you go look for this, and what's the official name of it?
It is called, if you search for Wayne County Recycles in the App Store,
Okay.
or on iTunes, or on iTunes App Store, or it's also available for your Android devices. You can find it that way. John Demergen, who's our resource recovery coordinator, I know is here with us in the meeting, so he's listening to all of this. John is the one who takes all of these resident phone calls and works with them on an individual basis to find safe harbor for their discards. So certainly you can direct any of your constituents over to our office, and we'd be happy to answer their questions.
Well, I don't necessarily want to do
basis.
that. What I want is something that I can send out, put in my newsletter, post to social media, maybe something along the lines of a flyer. If you want to know where to go in Wayne County,
we can
go
get
to
you
the App Store, get this. And I think it'll be better for all of our phones. I'm not at all discouraging citizens from calling on this, but it'll be better on all our phones because they'll have the information in their own hands. And
we
then
can
instead of calling to ask, they can answer their own question.
Yeah, we can certainly get that to you, Commissioner. And I just briefly want to mention the first question that you were talking with Mr. Candrivas regarding advocacy. On behalf of the administration, I have been advocating for these bills both through the Michigan Association of Counties and through the Michigan Recycle, and actually 3 different agencies, through MAC, through SEMCOG, and also through the Michigan Recycling Coalition, of which I am a member of their policy committee. So I've been certainly advocating on Wayne County's behalf on all 3 of those fronts as far as these bills go.
MAC being the Michigan Association of Counties.
Correct.
Yeah. Do you have anything else you want to comment on today, Mr. Cullen?
Oh my gosh, you guys have heard far more from me than you needed to.
All right. Well, this won't be the last time. I do want to check with my colleagues here to see if any other question they have before we wrap this up as the discussion went on. I'll go back to Commissioner Dobb. Do you have any questions now, Commissioner Dobb?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Anderson, anything occur to you?
Just a quick, addition to what you had commented about anyone working on behalf of these bills and indicating support. We pay a considerable amount of money to a couple of lobbying firms in Lansing. And I would think they would be another source that we should be reaching out to if someone hasn't already in the administration.
I left those out, Commissioner Anderson, but we have been in contact with them as well. And yes, that's been happening.
And that's one thing, not to get off the subject too much, that we need to get in as far as what lobbying efforts these folks have, if they've engaged, what Patrick has talked to them, have they taken that to the next step? So maybe Representative Tate would be able to tell us, although he's not on the call now, whether or not he's heard from those folks.
Yeah.
But thank you.
I will tell you, Commissioner Anderson, I have. And I posted this on social media that we were having this discussion today. And I did hear from somebody we all know in lobbying firm that probably is tuning in right now to watch this. So yeah, I think at this point, with everything that's going on and the committee that's looking at tipping fees at the administration, I would say that perhaps there should be some involvement of the commission in those discussions that are being had for commission input as it's being crafted for what to do in Lansing or on the tipping fees, right? That and again, I'll say, maybe we should look at those tipping fees, not just as, well, they're covering current costs, but we should look at them through what else can we do for materials management, for our citizens, all of that to get the recycling back up. Maybe there's some new things we can do with a little additional revenue and not just a status quo kind of look at it. Commissioner Baker McCormick, you have any questions at this point?
Mr. Chair.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Anderson, you still have the floor.
Just a quick follow-up. We might try to see if there's a Michigan Municipal League or any even out-of-state or communities and counties have, maybe we don't have to reinvent the wheel, but maybe see what they're doing too and get some of that information as to what they use the funds for, what they're charging. That's all.
And I think that's important to put into the conversation about the fee itself. Not only what we're doing, but what we could possibly do. So that's Commissioner Baker McCormick. Do you have questions? Oh, I think we lost Commissioner Baker McCormick. I believe that was what we established earlier. Okay, so I want to thank Representative Joe Tate for joining us today. Mr. Cullen, thank you so much for the presentation today. Very informative, very enlightening. And I know from all the years I've known you that you're always chomping at the bit to get out there and talk to the public about these issues. So thank you very much for the work that you're doing. Okay, I think at this point we're ready to move the agenda. Madam Clerk?
E, such other matters as may be properly submitted before the committee.
I do not have any. Does anybody have some such other matters? All righty, go ahead.
I said no.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you, Commissioner. Let's go to item F then, Madam Clerk.
Public comments.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do have public comments.
Okay, we'll be right with you in a sec, madam, and you will get your public comment in. You've got 3 minutes to address the committee for anybody giving public comment today. Comments are exactly that. They are comments. It's not a forum to open another discussion. If something comes up in public comment that needs to be responded to, we will get your information and respond to you outside of the meeting if there's like specific questions and that sort of thing. And I'll also say, and ma'am, you're right up first in line here, but I also want to mention to staff that there was a place for people to send emails if they wanted public comment. So after your comment, ma'am, I'm going to go to staff to see if any emails have coming in. So ma'am, if you'd like to identify yourself, please. You don't have to. 3 minutes, and you have the floor, ma'am.
Sue Yarbrough, Livonia. All political power is inherent in the people. I should have more than 3 minutes, but I want to address the current public health orders regarding restaurants and the lack of not having a restaurant open. Does Director Robert Gordon have the authority to do this? No. Is it legal? No. Is it legal that the local health department, Carol Austinberry, which I did call her and nobody calls back, and I did address this with the commission. I would like callbacks. Why do taxpayers pay for every telephone number in government and they don't call you back? So let's go with the language first. Separations of power. Director Robert Gordon is not the lawmaking body. Our government, which every government employee takes an oath to uphold the Constitution, and the U.S. Constitution and the Michigan Constitution. Let's go over whatever the local health department is saying. MCL 333.2453. Prohibit gatherings. Is that legal? Is it lawful? No. How about let's go with the US Amendment number 1. No law can abridge freedom of speech or the press or the right of the people to peaceably assemble. So no, that's not legal. Number 2, the public health thing, they just ensure continuation of essential public health services. That's what is in this law that they're quoting, that they had the authority to close down restaurants. No. And number 3, they're only to enforce health laws, current health laws that are on the books. They do not have the authority. So I'm asking every one of you to uphold the Constitution. You're going along with this. Everyone should be very upset with the separation of power being violated. Should she be impeached? The governor, yes. Should the director Gordon be impeached? Yes. And if Carol Austin Berry is going along with this, she should be impeached as well. So, yes, everyone. Oh, how about the people that work at a restaurant? Oh, by the way, you don't have a living anymore just because there's tyrants in Michigan running the show. And you're all going along with this. Nobody has called for her impeachment, I guess. How about Carol Austin Berry? I called her. She does not call back. How does she have the authority? I know Wayne County put out some papers about we need you to wear a mask. Is that legal? No. Is social distancing legal? No. Is your temperature checked? No, that's not legal. How about contact tracing? That's not legal either. So is anybody in Wayne County going along with this? I'd like to know that.
Thank you for coming in today for your comment, ma'am. And yes, it's public comment, and everybody needs to have an equal shot for their public comment. So it really isn't possible for us to let somebody talk.
Oh yeah, it's not possible for you to answer. Thank you.
That is not what I said, but thank you very much, ma'am. Can I ask?
Uphold your oath. That's what I'm saying.
Ma'am,
Thank you.
Don't make me cut you off, ma'am. You've had more than your time. Thank you. Trying to be polite and conducting the public's business. Do we have any emails? I should ask staff. Has anybody emailed in public comment?
Commissioner Killeen, this is Mark Abbo. Is it okay if I make a comment?
Yeah, I would like to get an answer to whether we have any emails or not.
I'm sorry, I was muted. We didn't receive any emails.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Abbo, would you like to identify yourself and then have your comment?
Yeah, and Mark Abbo, actually, I'm the commission's chief fiscal
What's
advisor,
your job?
but I'd rather speak as the Northville Township supervisor at this point.
Yes.
Patrick kind of hinted at it, but you know, Arbor Hills not being a good neighbor was kind of an understatement. They released the problem with the odor is that they release methane into the environment, and as everybody knows, methane is toxic to the environment. 22 times more, you know, federal government requires them to either capture it or flare it. But the other problem is that they haul sludge from Ann Arbor. So it is a serious problem. You know, it's a problem, you know, not the health, safety, and welfare of adjoining communities. So I would encourage the administration. I know that Representative Tate is not on the line, and there was a representative from Senator Polanski's office to continue to seek this legislation, even if it's not accomplished in lame duck, because it is a serious problem for adjoining communities that, you know, don't benefit from the revenue, but have to deal with all the ramifications of poor management of a landfill. Thank you.
Thank you, Township Supervisor Abbo. Okay, for staff now, are the microphones open for anybody to have public comment at this point? Have we
Yes.
unmuted? Have we unmuted people?
Yes.
Okay. So, any member of the public wish to have their 3 minutes for public comment right now? I'm making a call to any member of the public. You've been unmuted at this end, so make sure you're unmuted at that end. And I think I heard somebody.
Can you hear me? This is
Yes.
Dave Drennan speaking.
Yes, sir. We hear
I'm a
you,
resident
yes.
of Northville Township, and I'm a representative from the Conservancy Initiative.
Yes,
and
sir.
I want to echo what Mr. Abbo just said, that, yeah, it was very understated the way Arbor Hills was characterized. The Attorney General from the state of Michigan has now brought a lawsuit against Arbor Hills. And I didn't get a chance to ask, I wish I could have asked Representative Tate about the House bill. The past supervisor from Northville Township had testified in Congress, in Lansing before the House on at least 2 occasions this past year, offering an amendment to that bill. What the amendment was offering or was suggesting was that townships that are located adjacent to a rogue landfill that has multiple violations, such as the Arbor Hills landfill, be considered a host facility and be given the ability to have to approve the siting of a landfill. The Arbor Hills landfill is located in Washtenaw County, but it really services Wayne County. All the garbage trucks that get to Arbor Hills landfill go across Wayne County roads. The sewers that the landfill uses travel through Northville Township, so they are in Wayne County. We are more of a host community than Salem Township, but Salem Township extracts 70% of their operating revenue from that landfill. So I do think this is a very important piece of business that, whether it passes in lame duck or not, we should keep it high on our list of priorities. And we might want to consider treating all these landfills in the Metro Detroit area as a regional issue, because we have way more capacity than we need. The numbers that Mr. Cullen talked about was only talking about landfills located in Wayne County. But the landfill in Washtenaw County is one of the biggest landfills in the state of Michigan, in the Midwest, quite frankly. And there's also Pine Tree Acres, which is located in Macomb County, is also one of the bigger landfills in the Midwest. We don't need landfill expansions. Thank you.
And thank you, sir. What I would ask of you, because you're asking some technical questions on the bill, in the committee, in the notice that you saw to join this meeting today, there's an email there. I believe, do you see it, sir? If you could email to Plane, Plane, at WayneCounty.com with your specific question, and we will get that to the representative and get an answer for you about what's in the bill and what's not in the bill.
Yeah, I actually have a copy of the bill. I'm very familiar with what's in the bill.
Okay, good. Okay.
We're still hoping to get our amendment in the bill if it passes the House and gets to the Senate. We've been tracking it very, very closely.
I'm sure you have. Thank you very much for your public comment today.
Thank you.
Any other member of the public would like to have comment at the Health and Human Services Committee today?
Good afternoon, Commissioner Queen.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Honorable Health and Human Services Committee. This is Susan Thompson, President of ASME Local 25. Happy holidays to all of you. I did send in an email for public comment, but it obviously wasn't received, so I will state the comments that I do have publicly, and thank you for the opportunity to do this. Just for introduction, ASME Local 25 represents Wayne County employees who work in the public health division here at Wayne County. Our staff is very dedicated and very hardworking and very committed to protecting the public and environmental health for Wayne County residents. The comments that I do have are in terms of the renewed SEMHA contract, which Ms. Osterberry discussed earlier when you did vote on the agreement. She did indicate that there was some new items in bold that were additional services or additional monies that were going to be appropriated to certain services. The union is concerned about some of these items that are being contracted because we are very concerned that Wayne County staff is currently providing some of these services, such as public swimming pool inspections, environmental monitoring, some of the COVID-19 response, WIC, immunizations, web program, and West Nile virus, to name a few of the activities that we support in Wayne County if SEMHA is going to be taking over those services. As we know, we're concerned because given the attrition rate here at Wayne County, and then also with the economic issues that we've been having with COVID-19, there's been layoffs and displacements throughout the county. So as you know, the county is very short-staffed and has many vacancies. So that's where we're concerned with this. We do not want to see our work or the work that our members that can be doing in the services that they can provide to be Wayne County to be shuttled to SEMHA or taken over by SEMHA. So I did want to respectfully request the commission just to do some due diligence on this to make sure that this isn't the case with this current contract, and also to encourage the county to address the recruitment and retention issues that currently are faced by Wayne County and its employees. So please take a peek at this. We are concerned because, again, we're about being on the front lines, and we want to be out there and work hard on behalf of the residents of Wayne County. And all the issues that you've talked about today are our members. I represent the members that provide those services, so we're very proud to be doing that. But again, we want to continue to do what we can. We've heard rumors that the county is not going to be having our staff do the public swimming pool program or the sampling, and that's something we've done in the past. And that's also a revenue generator. The pool operators do provide sign a contract with the county, and our staff goes out and collects those samples. So that's one item of this we're concerned about. So I did want to bring this to your attention, and do appreciate you taking the time to listen to my and the union's concerns today. And again, wish you a very, very happy holidays. Thank you.
Well, and thank you very much for calling in. Like everywhere, it's the frontline workers that actually make things happen. Did I miss your local number, ma'am, when you introduced yourself?
Commissioner Colleen, that's AFSCME Local 25.
25?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for public comment today. Any other member of the public wish to have public comment for the Health and Human Services Committee today?
My hand is up.
Oh, I didn't see a hand. I didn't get it here. Ma'am,
Okay.
Go right ahead, ma'am. 3 minutes, you got it. Yes, ma'am, that's you. Miss Marshner is the way it shows on my screen. Uh-oh, did we lose people?
Don't hear anything.
Yeah, I don't hear anything either.
Through the chair, she did post in the chat.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, I see the hand up now. Okay.
I missed the part about combustion coals during the solid waste presentation. Is it pet coke? And that's what she wrote.
That's my question.
Well, thank you very much, ma'am. And we will, do we have the contact information for her to get that answer back to her?
No.
What is that contact information?
Well, we just need a phone number.
Oh, from me. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Want me to,
Well, I don't want you to do it publicly, but to we do want to get back to you with that question.
Type it in.
And the specific answer.
Private chat.
Yeah, but is there a way to get back to her? That's what I'm asking.
Right.
With that.
She could put her information in private chat. I was just saying.
Okay, if you would do that, ma'am, where you sent your question, if you would do that, send it to me, Colleen, Tim Colleen, Killeen, that's on your list, and we will get that answer back to you. But let me know whether it's an email or a phone number that I can get back to you.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, thank you.
Mhm.
Any member of the public wish to address the Wayne County Commission Health and Human Services Committee? Any member of the public would like to have public comment? I'm going to do last call here. Any member of the public would like to have public comment that's attending the meeting today? Okay, thank you for everyone that attended the meeting and presented. Madam Clerk, what is next?
Adjournment.
And thank you. I do have that email now. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to adjourn.
Thank you, Commissioner Dobb. And the chair is going to rule that without hearing an objection, we stand adjourned today. Thank you, everyone.